Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Heart Warriors. This is a series I've been guided and inspired to do through my energetic connection with Kata, which is the sacred masculine site in Central Australia, very close to Uluru being the feminine site. What the Kata has asked me to do is get the voice of men out there, men who are walking the path into their masculine heart. What are they thinking? What are they feeling? What tools and practices have helped them on their path? They can be a help and a light for other men who may be seeking a little bit of guidance in this moment. And today we have an amazing man called Satyen Raja, and it's my greatest pleasure to welcome Satyen to the show. Hello, Satyen. It's my honor to have you here. Whereabout in the world are you from?
I'm in Langley, British Columbia, Canada, just a beautiful place in the world, as you know. And I just wanted to, I shared before we came on here how moved I am by your writing, your expression, the depth and the magnanimousness of your spirit. So thank you.
Thank you. So, Setien, I know we only have just under an hour today, and I thank you so much for your time. But I'd like to start with getting a snapshot of the man you are today, and then we'll be able to jump back and see how you got here.
Well, I'm a blessed man. I'm very blessed to have an amazing wife of 35 years, my wife Suzanne, and two lovely young adult children, Satori and Shaman, 25 and 23. That's the core of my life. My main purpose and focus in life is enlightening leaders for the greater good. I believe that specifically in business leaders, CEOs and such, who are leading world level impact companies, I act as their guide, mentor, investor in their organizations. And I feel that we're in a very, as you know, delicate time on this planet where the forces of unconsciousness, ignorance, and worse are not aligned with the forces of light and consciousness and awakening. And rather than fight that viewpoint, my personal stance is let's cultivate who we are. Let's cultivate our own true self, our own gift in the world, so that we can be the most potent expression of who we are. And I believe that's going to change the world for the better, starting from everyday to world leaders to everyday leading your household.
For sure. So would you like to take us back to your younger years, a significant point where you had a shift and decided that you were going to do things differently?
When I was a kid, I saw the TV shows Kung Fu, Bruce Lee, and Kung Fu movies. And I had a deep inspiration to start to find teachers on that path. I had a deep life recollection, like somehow I lived as a monk. And so I went on a path to find that. And that shifted everything because when I was young, as a teenager and as a kid, I realized I didn't fit in. It didn't feel like this world was real in some way. But then when I saw these temple environments I knew it was a TV show, but I felt the truth of the vibration. And when I felt that, I went, there's something so true here. I didn't have words as a boy, but I knew in my being. And so I was blessed to have, when you follow that calling, grace and the universe supports us, I believe. And I was led to a profound teacher in school and Shaolin path of Kung Fu. So that was my origins, and that led me into natural healing and shiatsu, acupuncture, and then all the different healing modalities. And then that flowered into all the mental, emotional, spiritual dimensions of healing and alignment and awakening. So that's been my pursuit and my passion now for 40 plus years. So.
Wow. What would you say was your emotional state as a young man, your state of mind? Were you
Lost?
okay?
Lost, didn't feel like I fit into anything. I didn't feel anchored. I didn't feel I had a true fulfilling reason to be here. So it was like a flat land. I was doing whatever I needed to do in high school just to make it through. And the only thing that kept me, I believe, emotionally alive was going to Kung Fu and finding this whole school. And when I went there, I became alive. But outside of that, it was very gray for me for a long time. Yeah.
So when you finished school, where did you see yourself going as a man? What aspirations did you have for yourself back then?
So, as I shared, as I entered this monastic way of life in Kung Fu, the Shaolin Temple, that then said, okay, then my teachers prepared me and developed me, and I became a teacher. So it was quite early on. I became a teacher at 15. So I started teaching Kung Fu at the basic levels and such, and that became my life. So that was my passion. Once I knew that this was my path, the path of service and the path of martial arts, I only knew this much, right? But I knew that was my path, and that kept opening up everything. So it was really, that was the path that led me to all of the other expressions.
So I'm really interested to understand now martial arts and specifically Kung Fu. What does that teach a young man about life and masculinity?
Oh, wow. First of all, I think for all men of all ages, but young men specifically, my son started when he was young, and now we train together. And the changes it's made in his life, the development, it's been a backbone of his life. So, from our experience, number one, it gives a sense of humility and humbleness. We're learning a deadly art, an art that can harm, that's harmful. And to wield those weapons, to develop yourself mentally, emotionally, physically, to be able to do war is not a light act. So it in our training, also the moral line, the emotional line, the spiritual line had to be developed parallel to that physical level of capacity that we were developing. Because it wasn't a sport-oriented school I was in. It was like life and death, real life warfare, real life self-preservation, intense. And my teachers taught me that that's the yang side, the strong, the yang, the potent, the expression going that way. But that I needed to cultivate the yin, the feminine, the receptive, the aware, the attuned, the caring, the loving. So I think martial arts are great. Even if the ego captures you as a young man early, or you go, wow, it gives you confidence and strength, vitality, makes you feel more like a sexually empowered person. It consolidates one's energy. It brings you into a state of, you have to be humble with the other students around you. There's always people who can kick your ass no matter how good you get. So, one of my mentors in martial arts said, it's better to be humble all the time than to be humiliated all at once. So I think that's a very one of the core lessons of martial arts is humility combined with the warriorship. To become a spiritual warrior means to recognize that it may seem like there are enemies outside of you, but they're reflections of some internal enemy that hasn't been processed, hasn't been looked at, hasn't been healed. And so as a spiritual warrior, when we have these projections and they and them and those adamancies against others, we were trained early on to first come into equilibrium, come into equanimity, to not take things so personally, and then to feel that heat, not to suppress it, but to feel it and then find what's the power in this for you. And so that's been a lifetime lesson. I'm still learning it. I don't think there's any arrival to any of these eternal lessons. I think there's only a continuous cultivation.
That's fascinating. So with this line of martial arts, if a man has never done it, but is in adulthood, maybe middle-aged, even older, would you recommend that that's the path that he start at that age?
Absolutely. I believe every man who's listening here, regardless of your age, should be, first of all, you're going to ask for my number one recommendation. Start off with Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, specifically Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, which is a discipline I've been studying now with my son for the last 10 years or more. And what I love about it is there's no kicking, there's no punching, it's grappling, it's wrestling. You get to take out all that aggression, that energy. And whenever you're in a compromised position, you just tap, which means you let go, you give up. And then you get to find out your partner trains with you in the spirit of camaraderie on, okay, this is how you got defeated. How can you get out of it next time? And so it's a spirit of everyone lifting each other up. And what I love about it is men, we need to get together with other good men in collective positive intention, rub off on each other, have good, healthy men's bonding time and warriorship time. And so Brazilian Jiu Jitsu for me checks off so many of those marks. And it's it's gentler. There's no kicking, no punching. You're not kicking and punching each other. I did that as a younger man. I don't want to do that anymore. I can't do that anymore. But now I can wrestle and I can just tap when it's over. And I can go at my own pace, soft, gentle, sometimes strong and vigorous. So Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, everyone Google your closest one near you and go for at least 1 month. If you go for one class, you're probably going, why did I follow Satyen's advice? If you go for 1 month, you'll probably go, oh my goodness, I'm so glad, because it takes about 3 weeks, 4 weeks for the body to get acclimatized to the new way of movement and mindset and attitude. So number one choice is there for all men, period. Of course, women too, but all men, hands down.
Oh, lovely. Okay, so can you take us now to your lowest point, your darkest, deepest point in life?
Well, I can tell you two that came up recently in my life in the last 3 years, 2.5 years. So one of them, there's my grandmaster, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu grandmaster, Honorable Marcus Soares, who's my grandmaster teacher. And his top black belt, Benito Soares, one of his top black belts, was also my personal mentor and my son's. And he would come here and train us 3 days a week for a couple of hours for 5 years. So we had a deep relationship. And he died in a tragic accident all of a sudden. And we were all together in Hawaii. And it just devastated me. He was my elder brother. He was my spiritual brother. He was a First Nations warrior with great First Nations wisdom. So I was drinking in of this great, my son and I, he was uncompromising in ethic and integrity. And he pushed me and my son harder than anyone's ever pushed us to be our best. And when he died, all of a sudden, it was a crushing to my son and myself. And it's family, it's blood, you know. And when you share martial art blood, sweat, and tears on the floor, you really bond with the man. And so I basically shut down my company, all new business, anything, all my ventures, everything that was in the works or starting up, everything I stopped. And I just said, okay, let's just serve the clients I already have and shut everything off so I can really be with, because I couldn't do anything else. And so that was very intense moment. And from there, so many blessings have come, you know, my deepening of my connection to the spirit realm, to the ancestor realm, the tangible feeling that my ancestor is still there, and you know, even more potent form than I could ever imagine. To me, it's not an idea. It's like a reality that's coming now more than ever, more than ever. And then about a year, just a little over a year after, my right hand business partner for 20 years, my sister, my elder, my confidant, she died all of a sudden. She had an aneurysm all of a sudden. And she lived in our house. She was like imagine, you know, Alfred and Batman. Alfred was the takes care of the whole family and the business, and that level, she was my offer, Caroline Thompson. And both were devastating. And what I got was they were giving me this is after I started coming out of the grief after a year. They started giving me, I started getting, I'm to stand on my own at the next phase. And that they're there behind me as ancestor sentinels, infusing me with sacred energy from the other dimensions. And since that's happened, the doors that have opened up in the last year of where my gifts, my dharma, what my deepest next mission in the world is just flowered wide open. And I feel them with me in a way that I've never felt them. So
Wow.
just want you to know that although it was horrific, horrible, it was all of a sudden, there's a sacredness to death and a sacredness that of how death can initiate us into a new life.
I love that. Satyen, if I may, I'd like to go back and explore a bit deeper what grief feels like as a man. Could you take us back into your emotional state of maybe the few weeks after these two significant deaths in your life, and flow on to how you got yourself out of that darkness? And can we really talk about emotions, feelings, thoughts, insights? Because men that are maybe going through grief at this point, how can they use this to become the best versions of themselves?
First of all, what I learned, right after it happened, my whole body was in shock. My whole internal body just felt dead. I felt like no life energy. The whole center of my being felt collapsed and crushed. There's times I felt I couldn't breathe, and literally felt like my heart and soul was ripped out of me, like ripped out. And simultaneously, there was this deep divine transmission happening. And it was both happening at the same time, the most intense grief and the most sublime gratitude for them in my life. And so what I had to do was learn to feel both. I didn't want to feel the grief, and I want to do everything to and I knew within that if I don't feel it fully, it's going to linger. So I allowed myself, my lovely wife, friends, I reached out to therapist friends of mine. I reached out to my guides, counselors, and mentors. And I'm a strong man in life. People see me as strong. And I let out my baby. I let out my brokenness. I let out how fucking at the bottom and broken I was. I was broken, shattered. And it's when I was trying to save myself, pull myself out of it, that it didn't work, Gemma. I had to sink deeper and deeper into it. I had to go to almost catatonic. Some mornings not even wanting to wake up, nights restless all night, feeling their spirit, feeling, could I have done anything? How was I responsible? Could I have done anything to avoid any one of all the stages of grief? And you know, I read about Elizabeth Kubler-Ross's work, a very brilliant lady who dove deep into death, and she talked about stages of grief. I'm going to recommend everyone go on YouTube and you can get a little summaries on the stages of grief. That was helpful, that to know, okay, I could be in anger right now, or now another one, I could be trying to make negotiate with the universe or God. Listen, if you bring them back, and of course, or if I can see them again in some way, I'll do. So these are phases. So I went through negotiation. And then I also felt like without them, I'm nothing. You were my left and right. I had my wife next to me, but they were my two guardian sentinels. masculine and feminine, like elders. They were my elders spiritually. And I had to take my time to feel every last thread and nuance of the pain in my body. I couldn't even train martial arts. I felt even horrible going into my dojo where Benito would teach us. It was just, I wasn't ready for it. It took me about 6 months to start to breathe, literally about 6 months to start to breathe and come out. I said, look, I wrote down, what are my responsibilities? The minimum: family, my wife, my kids, the bills, making sure these things are handled, and then my clients that I currently have. So before I went on, I made sure that I got myself focused. And then I put all that stuff aside and I went into service to my clients. This is for you. You know, I've gone through this tragedy, but I want you to know I'm fully present with you. I made a vow that I wouldn't allow my grief to affect my service. I would just have to do way less service because I only had so much units of energy. And then to wrap this up, Joe, all of this was about energy mastery. So I learned to consolidate and conserve energy. And as men, many of us don't know that. We're putting out, we're taught, trained, beat yourself to the end, keep pushing, crushing it is the term here in the West. I don't know if it's there in Australia, but crushing it, the idea. Think about it. We keep crushing things, we're going to crush ourselves. Just the languaging is crushing.
Yes.
It's deifying the golden calf of excessive doing and excessive pushing and achievement. And that's all gone in me. You know, after this, these two sacred deaths, which are my aliveness, have taught me, like, this is what's most important thing. Everyone listening, and the love and the relationships that we're sharing and the connection, everything else is going to fade away. Like, it really is, quickly or gradually. If we can, like, really embrace that, death gave me the no opportunity but to embrace it. Yeah. But if we can embrace it consciously, then there's no fear of anything going away, because whatever is being released there's something deepening within ourselves. Is my last share with my brothers who are going through, and sisters going through, grief.
Wow. I found it interesting when you said that, you know, for your clients, you could switch off and not bring your grief into the interaction. And I know as a woman, I personally couldn't do that. I mean, I know you have obligations, but I would just feel I couldn't be my authentic self because I'm embodying the emotion. So I'm really interested to explore the masculine mind, how that can switch off for the moment to honor your commitments. And I'd also like to get into if a man doesn't let these feelings surface and explore them, what do you think happens on his journey if he doesn't allow to live through and feel the grief?
Well, number two, what you just said, you become toxic. Those emotions that we repress, we become toxic. We end up being slightly irritable and then more irritable. We are more have the propensity to lash out over small things, get frustrated, seek superficial forms of release, excessive masturbation, pornography, food, drugs, violent TV shows, whatever, some type of distraction, prostitution, anything that just, I don't want to feel that I just get me a distraction, right? The masculine within all of us is driven, number one, by freedom. We have a natural desire to be free from the constraints of life. And the feminine within us has a natural desire to deepen and consummate love and the flow of love. So that's what I have to say. I have to say, men, there's no shame in it. It's a warrior's act to find a therapist, find other brothers, say, look, fuck, I'm in hurt. I don't even know what to say. You may not even know how to speak your emotions. You might not even have any skill. You didn't learn. I didn't learn from my father how to express my emotions. Very traditional Indian businessman. I love you, son, but he didn't know how to really express his emotions fully as my mom does, that generation. So who are we going to learn from? Well, we're going to learn it ourselves. And we've got to go seek out guides, therapists, and have zero shame and treat it as a spiritual warriorship that you're going to a sacred place. I had to weep and cry and show my absolute brokenness to those who love me. So that and you know what? One of my mentors gave me such a beautiful advice. He says, Satyen, you've allowed your team, you've taken your team, your company, your family through the finish line for years. You're the guy who pulls over everyone on the finish line. Now, let them pull you over the finish line.
Mm.
Those are the best words of advice I got. And I go, really? But I'm the one who does it. He goes, yeah, it was that way. But your two loves who have passed on, they've initiated you. This is an initiation to your next phase, which is allow others to carry you over. Yes. So that was very valuable. So now my team, this new team was formed and all that, they're carrying me over. I don't have to be in such leadership. Now their leadership is growing and I'm elevating to the elder grandfatherly role, even though little, but that's where I'm moving into. So that's what I want to share about that. In terms of how to shift, I couldn't do that when my loves first passed. I had to take I didn't know how long it was, 3 weeks or before I could say, you know what? Because I do have obligations to organizations that I feel responsible for. First I dealt with is just tell the truth. I told they said, listen, and they knew these people too. They have met them both, my colleagues. They said, listen, I've had devastating death in my family. I love you all. I care about everything. And I want to serve you when I can actually be there and serve you with my full presence. It's not going to be that way for a few weeks. Is that okay with you? He said, yes. So after 3 weeks, I got the message. I got the feeling I could serve again. I called them back. I'm ready to mentor you. I'm ready to start my mentoring with you again. They were so happy that I was just honest. And because I was able to be honest, say, look, I'm not able now. I need this space. And I shared it with vulnerability, what I need, and that I want to be of greatest service to them. I told my family too. I said, look, I'm not gonna, they know they love them, these people too. We're all devastated, but they know that I'm leading the pack. And they said, okay, let's all just ratchet down. Let's all gear down to nothing. So I think the honest expression helped me. And then when I did come on, I would just say the serenity prayer. God grant me the serenity, accept the things I cannot change, the courage and the power to accept the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. So I do that little prayer before I got on with my clients. And then the practice I did, so how to, rather than shut off anything, I bring my presence here. And I recognize that my presence, the unswerving dedication to that hour, is the greatest gift I can give. My beingness, my presence. So I look here, but I'm expanding my peripheral vision. When you expand your peripheral vision and connect with your clients, whoever your work, whatever, you need to quiet the mind. Peripheral vision is the instant way of quieting the mind, of personal thought. Then I could be totally there. Then after that hour, after that session, I might finish, take a 5-minute break, close my eyes and start crying because I feel the well of grief come up again.
Yeah.
And then I go, okay, I got another client in an hour. Okay, I go for a walk. Okay, same thing. So I did that until it became simpler and easier. But it's a journey.
Yes. Wow. Thank you for that.
Yeah, patience is important. Self-love and self-patience, and to lower. I'm a very focused, intentional, person. I come from a warrior tradition, and I had to learn to be in my yin. feminine. So that's what I can say, that there's a deep well of strength in there if you give yourself permission. So, and that could be, doesn't have to be through grief. It could be at the end of the night, could be end of the weekend. Don't get out of the identity of work, man, businessman. Come home, take a walk 10 minutes, go for a shower, go do some exercise, go be in the grass, walk, breathe. Then come home to be with your loves, your families, your friends, with your fresh, refreshened, relaxed presence. Not the same energy and ball of the working energy coming home. Your family doesn't need that. They need you free of that so they can enjoy you.
Amazing. Satyen, I'd really like to explore your awareness of the yin yang, masculine, feminine. Now, you're obviously a very masculine man. So could you maybe explain to men who are just coming into awareness that they have a feminine side, the difference between healthy feminine, wounded feminine in a masculine man?
Okay, that's a great question. All right, let me flesh this out if I may, okay? I'm going to talk about 3 stages of masculine and feminine energies from this perspective, as taught to me by one of my mentors, David Data, okay? And so in the first stage of masculine life, it's like, it's very me-oriented, my ego, me, what I want, the old school man, you know, the idea of a lot of spine, but less heart. More egoic, self-serving, perhaps. Okay, that macho brute, less sensitive, less connected to his emotions. Okay, and my way is the way, right? My right over anything else. Okay, so that's the first stage, man. We grow from that to the next generation, which is second stage. You start to learn, you open your heart, your being, you read self-help books, you come meditation, grow your hair longer. When you know, you start to open those dimensions, going to men's groups, these things, and that starts to open up a newer energy. So second stage man is lots of heart, but many of those second stage men have lost their spine. It's deteriorated, or they haven't cultivated it. It's atrophied from non-cultivation. So third stage man is heart and spine, right? Heart of service, heart of dedication to a higher purpose, not just your own, not just your money, not just your sex, not just your toys, not just your bills, not just your everyday response, but a third stage man, this highest dimension. The way to access that, it's already there. The DNA, the wiring, the imprint is already there in us all. That's the amazing part. How do we find it? We ask ourselves the question, what must I do to live, love, and die completely without regret?
Oh, love it. Wow.
I like to ask myself that when I feel dull. I ask this at least once a week of myself. What must I do to live, love, and die completely without any regret? I could do that on a daily basis. Today, I can use that as my meditation. That's my true north steering self-inquiry I give myself. It's actually a challenge to myself to get me out of the everyday slumber and the everyday doings and all the repetitive mechanistic schedules of our lives, right? We've got to break out of that once. We've got to break out of that shell and ask ourselves a demanding, nervous creating, uncomfortable, and the answer, if it's not comfortable, if it's not uncomfortable, you haven't chosen the right thing. It has to have some edge to it. So if I were to ask myself that, I'm going to ask all the men listening, what must I do to live, love, and die completely without regret? I'm really going to ask this. And I'm looking for the easy stuff to come up first, and then what's underneath is the real risk. When the risk comes in, and I can feel what the risk is, and I don't want to say it in public, but I will, because that's the exercise. All lesser projects that are not world level impact, I need to let go of and not foster. only world level impact, positive world level impact. And that's it. That's the only thing I can entertain and foster to be of service to. So that's my edge, because a third of my clients are great missions, but not global. And that's where I'm at now. I'm meant to serve that big picture.
I just love that so much. So for those men who have fear on stepping towards the edge and that zone of uncomfort where is the only growth zone, what do you say to those men to inspire them? What about men who think they probably have a mission but don't know what it is?
A great question. A little bit towards your next mission, a little bit of edge is better than excessive edge and then falling on your face and saying, I took all that risk and I shouldn't have, and going back in your cage. No risk at all. Staying comfort is cowardice with your own soul. You're letting your own soul down, and no one here is a coward. Okay, we only have fears that are more impressed upon us rather than arising from within us. You can't do this. Who are you? You don't deserve this. What are you to do that? Are you silly? Are you of your mind? That's too big for. Those are all thoughts. They're not ours. First of all, is we have to de-own those thoughts and realize they're not ours. They've been put in there. Who knows how, where, wherever. They're there. And you know what? There's an attack on spiritual masculinity right now on the planet, big time. There's a usurping, there's a depolarization agenda, in my opinion, to neutralize humanity, to make us more compliant and more not in our power, not in our own. When a man is in his power, he's in his own decision. He can listen to the most provocative orator and go, rather than go, he can go, interesting evolutionary experience. What's right? Does that feel right for me? No, thank you. Thank you for your expression. Does that feel right for me? Yes, thank you. I'd like to hear more. It's a sacred, neutral empowerment that starts to happen. So that's one thing I want to give and share. How do we find our mission? A couple of things. The question I just gave. What must I do to live, love, and die completely without regret? If you ask yourself that in a 5 minutes meditation, all you get is, hey, maybe is you see yourself with elders. Go volunteer for an hour a week. You don't need to change your whole life to change your whole mission. Go find an elderly home where you can spend an hour, spend some time with elders, take a tape recorder, your phone, ask them questions of wisdom, share your love with them, connect with them. And you might go for once a week for a month, and then some intern there or one of the elders says, I'd like to introduce you to my friend. And you give a call and they say, hey, listen, we've got a position at a company that's just right for you. You never know how one little following that little edge, that intuition opens the door for another one, opens the door for another. But if we haven't premeditated, a lot of us men think, what is the A, B, C, D to get to the F? If we start trusting that all we need to know is that intuition, to follow the A will then show the next B, that it doesn't have to be lined up like ducks before you initiate your sequence. Start the sequence with the first intuition. It doesn't matter if it's, hey, you see yourself, what must I do? Here's another way to find your mission, okay? Feel into when you're interacting with others in some form of interaction. What would happen in them? What would you have to see in them, in the other, that if you saw, you would light up and you go, I'm doing my purpose. So for me, when I see influential impact level CEOs go, holy jumping, my mission is really strong. I know I need to bring my whole team into a higher vibration. I need to bring myself and we're going to really make a positive impact on the planet. And when I see them talking and feeling that through my mentoring, coaching, interaction, I go, I'm fulfilling my mission, my purpose, which is to enlighten leaders for the greater good. So ask yourself, write it down, journal, go for a walk, meditate, be with God, be with Mother Earth, and be with the earth, and ask, feel into, what are the interactions? What's the gift I have to give that when I'm giving it, I feel on fire? Do more of that. You don't have to quit your job. You don't have to start all over. Do more of that, and they'll open up. They'll give you the next step, give you the next step. Then your deepest purpose will start to emerge. But it'll only emerge when you follow the T's, the path of the T's to your highest purpose.
Amazing. And that gets us into the energy shift between service to self and service to others, because would you agree that a man's mission is always in service to others? And with
Absolutely.
that comes abundance, power, everything else. So how does that feel in a man's heart to make that shift from service to self and to service to others?
That's you're asking phenomenal questions here today, really potent and on point. I believe that younger men need to be in service to themselves first. At first, you got to be young man, got to say, hey, I want a car, I want to get healthy, I want to have nice belongings, I want to be a somebody, okay? Go on that path. But if you're doing it past 25, you're doing it too long. If you're doing it past 30, you're doing it too long. Learn to cultivate it at the beginning. But if you're 50 and you're still service to the self, you're going to find, if you already haven't found, it's a dead, empty life. You'll get the bling on the outside. You might achieve this and that on the outside, but your soul's going to be dead.
Mm-hmm.
The deepest pain of the masculine soul is not knowing their purpose, or knowing their purpose and not living it. That's the deepest suffering of the masculine soul. Wow. And it's our number one responsibility to find it, to feel it, wherever it's at. So I was very blessed as my Kung Fu teachers very early on. The first two instructor lessons or teachings I had to learn are, excuse me, we, the instructors, care. And we, the instructors, are helping people help themselves. Right. It just sounded like words to me, and then I got it. I went, oh my God, one day when I saw one of the students so happy that I helped them out with their fist and their confidence. And I was a young teacher, and I was like, I'm helping them. Even that little fist, or even that kid who broke that board is like beaming and that's showing his mom and dad and feels confident. And then 3 years later, there's no more bullying in their lives. Like, period. They're confident. So those little things I think are so valuable. But ultimately, there is no self unto its own self. We are not an island unto ourselves. Personal egoic gratification will only take you so far, and then it'll fall flat, have diminishing returns, and then will be harmful if you only go down that path to yourself and the world. The path of service is actually our true nature. It's not even a path. It's actually our deepest nature revealed and fully expressed. We are the service to the universe right now by just being born. We are in service. So if we can recognize that my incarnation, my birth, me being here, I might not even know it. I might be a dweeb. I might have my shit together. Satyen said, and Gemma says, we're in service. We're whole just being here. That lets off a lot of hook. That you got to accumulate, be smart, have numbers and letters on the end of your name. No, you're whole and complete now, my brother and sister. But now that you're whole and you realize that, you go, okay, what must I do to live, love, and die complete without regret? And that always is the path of service. If it's buying a Lamborghini, that's your ego's talking. If
So,
it's going off to Australia and going on an adventure spiritual tour, that's your spirit calling. Follow spirit.
Judah. um, so there's a lot of words flying around about men coming into their heart, walking the heart warrior path. And for a man who's always been in his mind, that's trying to understand, well, what does that mean? What advice would you give to a man that wants to come into the heart energy, but doesn't know how to do it?
That's a great question. I work with a lot of intellectuals, scientific minds as well. Very brilliant scientific minds. Been in this world a lot, all their life. And so one of the things I do is I get them to do simple practices. So one of the practices that really is the beginning opening of this is asking friends, family, spouses, children, aunts, uncles, nephews, nieces, colleagues, in a casual way, tell me something about yourself you'd like me to understand about you. Well, whatever they say. So tell me something about yourself, Gemma, you'd like me to understand about you.
I'd like you to understand that I always speak my truth from the heart.
Thank you. And that's how you start it, because you're asking someone, and then I would just ask more. Yeah, tell me more about that. So all you guys are listening here to learn it, you simply from your genuine ask, really want to know what others, most people walk around not being misunderstood. Most people on the planet don't feel that they're fully understood. And an act of love is asking them, tell me something about yourself you'd like the world, others, me to understand about you. And I find when I start doing that, and when men who are very intellectual start doing that, their heart starts to open. They start to care. The care element comes in. I mean, there's more radical ways, like going into plant medicine ceremonies. One can do psychedelic journeys underneath supervised, masterful guidance only, not on your own. But those are very strong, if you're ready to go and crack it wide open. But as a daily starting practice, check in. Many times we're only thinking about what's going on in our universe, in our mind, in our world. After this call with you, I'm going to check in with my wife. Hey, wife, hey, Suzanne, how's it going? And I've got another meeting soon after with my teammate. And I'm going to say, hey, I always say, hey, so what do you want me to know about you today?
You know what?
It opens the heart.
Yeah. As a woman, I feel your presence when you do that. You know, it's not like your genuine presence, which is, I think, for many men that stay in their mind, they struggle with being present, which is the now moment, which is the only moment love can be created and shown and expressed. So I would totally agree with that, because when you're doing that, you are being present, you are being focused on the moment, and that is the only moment that we can ever exchange love. So that's beautiful, which will get men feeling into the heart energies, that presence of being, there's no escaping with mental dialogue. They're there present, listening. Amazing. I love that. Satyen, I know you're limited with time, so maybe you'd like to share, to finish off, what other wisdom and advice that maybe I haven't tapped into that you would like to share with men who are maybe, wanting to explore this path and know there's something more out there for them, but aren't quite sure what it is.
Absolutely. It's a great questions you've had all day. I really appreciate this. So you talked about, so I'm going to give you the masculine triangle from my view. Okay, the three walls of the masculine triangle. If you look at a triangle like this, like a mountain or like a pyramid from the earth going up to the heavens, strong base going up to the sky. Okay, that's the masculine energy. The feminine is the heavenly energy descending down, the upside down triangle descending down into the earth plane. Together they make a star, but the masculine and feminine. So the masculine triad, presence, and we've shared about that. The other aspect is claim. What do you claim and what do you unclaim? It's really important for us to know that. So one of the things I do is I go, as a man, what do I claim? And I write it down and I get behind it. So what do I claim for me? I claim the honor of my family. I claim my woman and my children, that I shall be a protector, a provider, and a love and support their lives. I claim that. I claim my businesses. I claim my integrity. I claim the health of my body. I unclaim politics for me. I unclaim bullshit. I unclaim lie. So get clear on what you claim and unclaim. When you do that, a power builds it. Just even when you say I claim, your masculine positive life force comes up. Make sure it's a claim of something noble, Camelot within. We all have that Camelot within, okay? So presence is important, but also claim. And the last one is penetration, which means obviously there's a sexual connotation, but penetration means make your word law, bring your point of view, bring your action, penetrate it into the world. Don't be sitting. The masculine has a meditative, neutral quality. We can sit and witness and judge and talk all the good talk. This should happen. The referee should have done this. That coach and that team should have done. We can all be the backseat driver in some way, but that's not exercising our masculine power. That's the lower form, unconscious judgment or judgment. But when we come into the field and say, okay, here's my gift. I don't know how to bring it into the world. Okay, who's brought this gift into the world? Writing, speaking, you're good at some mechanical gift, whatever it is. Find who's good at it. Who's already, chat with them, meet with them, rub shoulders, be of service. I would love to learn from you. I told my son he wants to learn right now for his business, power washing and car detailing. He's really into all that stuff. So this last 2 days, he's been at a mentor, a very successful man who's got that business in a town 4 hours from now. But we found a connection, and he says, please, I'll show you personally. And I go, son, you can spend hours trying to figure it out, books, or you can learn from a master who's successful. So that's what I have to say to that. Let yourself be around and give yourself the humility to be around others who are doing well further on the path, and absorb all you can from them.
Oh, amazing. Satyen, where can people find you? You can use however much time you like now to say any last words.
Oh, thank you. So you can find me at my website, which is warriorsage.com, WARRIORSAGE.com. On there, there's resources, many audio programs that are free to download for men, women. There's an audio program on Tantra, sacred relationship, and sexuality, all free to download. There's a relationship activation 1-day course. There's a power activation to activate your true power, a 1-day full training course. There's an abundance activation to kick that all in. These are all full 1-day, all free to serve and to experience, and that you can do with your families around the world. So please go there, enjoy. And if you'd like to send some messages to me, it'd be a joy to hear from you as well.
Amazing. Is it okay if I put that link in the description below on the video?
Absolutely. Thank you.
And you could send through any other links that you think are appropriate, and I can add them into the YouTube description.
Thanks. And I'll let you know, I've got 2 new books that I've just released. One's called The Transcendent CEO and Culture. So it's for all business leaders. So please, those of you who are involved in business, wherever you're at, you can check that out. And it's an oracle. You can open it up anywhere. It's not like front to cover type. It's meant to be a book of wisdom you can open. And then there's a new art book, a table art book that's been in the years in the making, that's been released, called The Path of the Warrior Sage. And it has lots of gems in the realm of masculine and feminine energetics in there. Okay.
Oh, amazing. It's been such an honor, Satyen. Thank you so much for sharing your time and wisdom with us. And I can't wait to upload this and get it on YouTube. So I'll wind up the recording now if there's nothing else that you want to say.
Well, I'll just say thank you so much for your gift in the world, your support of men, women, truth. I know you're a truth warrior, and I want to honor you and the good work that you're doing in the world. And thank you. And we meet as a super team, all of us around the world, to raise the planet.
We do. Thank you, Satyen. Thank you so much.
Most welcome.
Okay. Bye.